to be a person.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to our third sessions of Catholic teachings and apologetics. This evening we have the pleasure of welcoming Louis Richard, a man that I know for many, many years and who is presently and has always been very involved in his church, and a truly good man. Now helping with the Nathaniel program in St. Boniface. Him and his wife Mary are leading that. And this evening, Louis has taken the time out of his busy schedule to come out to Lorette and join us. And this evening he will be talking about the social engineering of homosexuality. Louis?
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. This topic, I think you've had speakers here previously who've spoken on this topic, and I wasn't present, and there may be a little bit of overlap, but that's okay. This topic has been close to my heart for a very long time because I have close relatives who experience same-sex attraction, many friends, co-workers as well. And so it's always been of interest to me, and it made me want to study it more. So what I'm going to present to you today, and I'll just march through here, before I start talking on the subject itself. Why would I give a talk like this? Well, any talk, I think any Christian talk, should somehow draw us closer to God, to love God, and somehow draw us closer to our neighbor, to love them. And so, if anything beneficial comes out of this talk, I'm hoping that would happen. Here we go. Of course, more directly to increase the understanding of God's truth regarding sexuality in general and homosexuality in particular, and to increase our ability to love and be a greater assistance. I'm going to read it with you guys because it's my memory thing. Greater assistance to our neighbors, and in particular to those who experience same-sex attraction and those who support it as well. Okay? I want to start this talk too, making very, very clear, as the last slide was implying, that we have to treat everybody with love. You know, for some, the idea when you're a Christian and you accept the teachings of the Roman Catholic Church with respect to homosexuality, you can have all sorts of emotions about this, and they may be understandable, but in the long run, with any human being, no matter how they're living their life, we're called to love each other. Oops, let's me backtrack. Well, I'll see them all up there. If, like the Roman Catholic Church, then one disagrees with homosexuality as a valid form of sexuality, does this automatically imply that we do not accept, or worse, we dislike or hate those who experience same-sex attraction and practice homosexuality? Does it imply that we are homophobic? And the answer is no, it should not. It should not. As Catholics, we must nurture complete love and acceptance of all people so that we can become more like our God of unconditional love. We judge acts, but not people. Evangelistic opportunities depend on this. We don't want to create walls, we want to bring down walls so that we can be in communion and relationship with other people. I think sometimes, not only with respect to homosexuality, perhaps in other cases, a person may identify themselves, I am a homosexual, or I am whatever. But we're not identified by what we do. We do all sorts of stuff. If we were identified by what we do, then all the sins that we all have committed would be identifying us. Not good. We're identified by the fact that we're loved by God. That's our most core identity. God loves us, and so here we are. That's our identity. We're not good enough to define ourselves, thank God. All right. This is all just pre-stuff, all right? We're getting there, we're getting there. So the outline of the talk, this will be done over 2 weeks. So I'm going to do the first 3 this week, maybe, because there's a lot of stuff there, and the last 3 the next week. But I think first half is too long, and I may have to push some of that over. So the nature of nature, and the nature of reality. It's the first thing I'll talk about. And then the true nature and purpose of sexuality, rationalizing. And how does it operate in our lives? And then, oops, I can't back up here, social engineering. The last 60 years, how could society change so much in terms of how we view homosexuality? Tremendous amount of change. And the impact on various sectors of society, and we'll go through 4 or 5 different, the law, medicine, and so on. We'll look at that and see how all of this social engineering has impacted society. And finally, what is the church's response to all of this? How can we respond appropriately? And what is appropriately? Appropriately would be in such a way that the truth be known in love. You can't have love without truth, and you can't have truth without love. St. Edith Stein, I'll come back with that saying again. All right. What are the main sources that I'm using? A book called Making Gay Okay. Robert Riley, and there's the guy, and there's the look of the front of the book. Our Prophetic Moment, an article by Peter J. Herbeck. He works with Renewal Ministries, and the Catechism of the Catholic Church. All right? So those, there's a lot of quotes up here. A lot of what you're going to see on the slides, bullet by bullet, is right out of Making Gay Okay. It was the simplest way you could do it and get it ready in time. But if it's something else, it'll be noted as where it comes from. All right, let's go. So the nature of reality, big topic. But we're just going to focus on one basic thing. What's the purpose of things? As a Christian, or even not necessarily just as a Christian, but if you want to be rational, it's a big statement, but you'll see what I mean when I keep on going. Things have a purpose. To everything under heaven, there is a purpose. Okay, and I'll just go up a few slides before I get way ahead of myself. How does one view reality accurately? What is the purpose? The purpose of human beings. Okay? What is the purpose of various objects in the universe? Is one course of action always as good as any other? Is it according to our nature? Is it according to our will? So those are big questions there, but I'll get into more detail. The case for homosexuality or same-sex marriage becomes plausible only if one accepts certain assumptions about how to distinguish what is natural from what is unnatural, and what is right from what is wrong. Okay? It's hard to talk about this subject unless you start to dig and go to the core of things. So this is stepping all the way back. Once the objective status of nature, and the capital N in nature is taken right out of the Making Gay Okay book. He's talking about creation as it is, with a capital N. In other words, some reference back to God. Once objective status of nature is lost or denied, we are unable to possess any true knowledge about ourselves and about how we relate to the world. It's fundamental. Okay? In other words, it's like when morality is relative, or when we talk about relative truth, relative morality, which is very popular nowadays. There is no truth, there's no morality. That's when you're outside of some objectivity. In other words, there's nothing objective, so we don't know what to think, and there's nothing you can say about anything. Usually that's applied to sexuality. It's not usually applied, for instance, let's say that I said, well, I hate black people. Now, I don't hate black people, but if I said that, if I were to say, well, if you say, well, there's no morality, well, then that wouldn't matter. I'm not immoral, right? But people would disagree. They say, well, no, that's different, right? You cannot hate black people, and you cannot hate whomever, okay? So somehow there's a morality attached to that, but when it comes to sexuality, morality suddenly dissipates. Well, that can't be true. Either there is or there isn't truth. So, carry on here. So we're going to look at two opposing views of the nature of reality. We're going to look all the way back to Aristotle and Plato, and in that book, Making Gay Okay, that's what he does. He actually doesn't talk religion too much. He doesn't make any reference to the Catholic. I think he's a Catholic, but he doesn't make reference to the Catholic. He just wants to use rational thinking. And so he goes back to Aristotle and Plato, and you'll see why he did. And then he goes back to another philosopher, a guy named Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and they had opposite views about reality. Okay, so we'll think about those two things. Pretty heavy stuff, eh? All right. So these guys both think they're right. Okay?
Usually that's a God thing.
Unless there's a woman in the room.
Okay. So the two opposing views are things have a purpose based on their nature. Okay? The things, the parts of creation, have a nature that is, now this is a big word, so I put it in brackets, I put its meaning, and I did this several times. Teleologically, okay, that comes from Aristotle, I guess, or Plato, or one of those guys, because they had big words, and they got a lot of big words, and I kept on having to find a little definition for them. So teleological is the purpose or directive principle or the goal of whatever. Like, let's take a car, okay? Now, a car is not made by God directly, it's manufactured, but it's got a purpose, right? And it's got to move us from A to B, and it's got to be relatively comfortable. So, you know, the guys who make cars are going to be make sure they make it a certain way, and they got to, you know, so that it doesn't break or fall apart in 1 year, etc., etc. So, God, the creator of the universe, has made a bunch of things, and they have a purpose. And He also.
7:30. It rings at 7:30.
All right. Okay. I thought, talk's over.
Okay, let's go.
Let's have food. All right. So, order to ends that inhere in their essence. In other words, whatever they're made for, that's what they're going to do. That's the purpose of them. You can't do something. They're not made to do something else. To put it in simple words. This view leads to the primacy of reason in human affairs. In other words, you can think straight through. In other words, science, okay, makes the assumption when they start studying all the stuff that they study that, well, we're going to figure out how this works. If that happens, then this happens. And if this happens, that happens. And things follow, and you can see reason. So I often think of science as the scientist making an effort to understand what God did. Okay, that's the whole study of science. That's the one I like. This is the view I do like. Okay. Proper use and maintenance is needed for good functioning. Misuse automatically leads to problems. Well, you go back to the car. If you don't put the oil in, etc., etc., it's going to fall apart. Okay. Same with the human being. You got to get care. Got to do your exercise, and you got to use your sexuality correctly, or else something will go wrong, and does. Oh, so. The oak tree is the acorns telos. That's trying to explain the big word up there, right? Non-teleological things do not have an inbuilt nature with specific ends or purposes. They are nothing in themselves but gain meaning only by what we make of them by our wills and desires. Okay? This is, well, I'll keep going. This implies that we have the power to do so. This view leads to the primacy of the human will. Okay? You don't like it, eh? Yeah, no.
Is that the Rousseau's?
It is. I'm going to give more of, this is one of those. Okay.
Volkswagen still had problems.
Cool. All right. So these guys. Man is by nature a rational. Political is the word they use because they were into politics back then.
Yeah.
So, but it related to the government. We might change the word political for social. Man is a rational, social animal. Human is a being, if you want to say that instead of animal, for whom the basic societal unit is the family. Human beings are born into and live in families, part of a larger social units necessary to man's fulfillment. Okay? Things have an inner orientation or aim. Right? Nature is a cause that operates for a purpose. The purpose is a given in a thing itself. It is not man-made. The laws of nature are pre-existing, immutable, and universal. This is Aristotle talking. Smart dude. Okay? That's a lot of stuff, I know. All it's saying is, what was made had a purpose. That's really what it's saying.
Even the mosquito.
That's right. Yeah. No matter what you think of them. They feed the frogs, or whatever. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, France, I forget, 15 or 1600, I forget, 1700s maybe. Industrial Revolution, 1700s and 1800s. Man is not a rational political animal, and society in any form is fundamentally alien and alienating to individuals. What a dark view of life, eh? I really wanted to go in and look at what was his life growing up. I know that his mother died at birth. I think doesn't say his father was a bad person. I read a bit, but he did run into some problems. I'm trying to understand where this came from, but anyways. In his origins, man was isolated and essentially complete on his own and in himself. In other words, problems come when you relate to others.
Sounds almost autistic.
Well, I don't know. But you know how we don't get along with people?
Yeah.
So I think, that was on his mind. Awful, eh?
It's
Okay.
true. Sad.
I saw a great cartoon. Charlie Brown says, I love mankind. He says, it's the people I can't stand. Okay, things have no inner aim, so they're anti-teleological. It is man, not nature, who gives things their purpose. Insofar as they pertain to man, these so-called laws are mutable, conditioned by historical accidents, and therefore malleable. Big words, but they all add up to it is man that decides everything, the purpose of things, the right and the wrong action. So it becomes relative to, so in other words, if you have 3 billion people, you'd have 3 billion versions. Okay. Here, I like the picture of Brad saying, can you see it there?
Not too well. He's
No,
kind
it's
of
not
looking
too
at his
good.
fingers.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just the, let's see if we can fix this.
Yeah, pick it up.
There we go.
Boy, gee.
Oy vey. The idea that nature has something to say he's speaking as if he were Rousseau. Okay. The idea that nature has something to say is no longer admissible, according to Rousseau. Man is to have the liberty to remodel himself at will. He is to be free from all of the prior givens of his essence. He makes of himself what he wants. And only in this way is he really free and liberated. So he's portraying all that Rousseau was trying to say, and saying it in different words, a little bit clearer because the English is easier. Behind this approach is a rebellion on man's part against the limits, and now he's giving his opinion more. Behind this approach is a rebellion on man's part against the limits that he has as a biological being. In the end, it is a revolt against our creatureliness. Man is to be his own creator, a modern, new edition of the immemorial attempts to be God or to be like God. Okay. Now you might wonder, why you have all this stuff and we're talking about homosexuality? I'm getting there, okay? Hang in there. Political law and natural law. This is getting interesting. We're going to hit a little closer here. It is the foundation for the declaration that, remember, the book, Making Gay Okay, is an American, so a lot of American stuff, and I just pulled it right out of his book. The foundation for declaration that all men are created equal. Wicked and unjust statutes are anything but laws. They are in the very definition of the term, because in the very definition of the term law, there inheres the idea and principle of choosing what is just and true. That was said by a guy named Cicero. I got a picture of him up here. Oh, there it is. Positive law, that made by legislatures or rulers, is legitimate only to the extent to which it incorporates natural law. See, let's talk natural law a little bit. Natural law is according to, there's a lot can be said. There's books and books written about natural law, so I'm really trying to summarize in very brief fashion. We're made a certain way, so if we don't, natural law for a car is change the oil every 5,000 clicks, okay? Natural law for a car is clean it once in a while. Natural law, etc., okay? Natural law for a human being is, well, we're built a certain way. So we're going to have to eat good food, we're going to have to exercise once in a while, and use our bodies according to their purpose. Or something will go wrong. Okay? So, laws that we make through governments should cooperate with and be in tune with the natural law, because that will make things work properly. Does that make sense?
Very logical.
Okay. A positive law that made contrary to the natural law would be, by definition, unjust. Now, not many people, some of the laws we have nowadays, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't fit that way. So, because of Greco-Roman philosophy, reason replaced force as the arbitrator of human affairs. In other words, it was mostly wars and beat them, and then you get beaten. It's just fights, right? But these guys were smart. These Greeks and Romans, and they started to think through things. And we had Aristotle and Plato and some smart Roman guys too. And so they had a lot of success in terms of having some peace, because they were thinking a little more deeply than just force. Reason becomes normative. Thomas Aquinas wrote that the natural law is nothing else than the rational creature's participation in the eternal law, God's law. Make sense? Okay?
If he's rational.
Yeah. There's Thomas Aquinas. Behaving according to human nature, therefore, means acting rationally. All right? Now, there's a big word, concomitantly, which means naturally accompanying or associated. Behaving unnaturally means acting irrationally. This notion of reality necessitates the rule of reason for human beings because of their rational nature. That was a big sentence, but anyway, it all adds up to, if you want things to go well, do things according to the nature, the way that you were created, and don't go against it. Be considerate of the purpose of things to make it work well, even the human being. So of course, this is leading up to sexuality. Sexuality has a purpose. So that's a big section we're going to talk about tonight. There's more. Okay. In short, when we speak of man's nature, we mean the ordering of man's being towards certain ends. It is the fulfillment of those ends that make him fully human. If you go off, then you're going to experience something that's less than fullness. Problems. The good for man, Aristotle tells us, is happiness. Happiness is not whatever we say it is, however, but only that which is consistent with our nature, which makes us truly happy. Happiness is a result of living the good life. We can't grasp at it, we can't make it happen. It's going to happen when we know that we're in good relationships, we're taking care of ourselves, etc., etc. And then happiness is a byproduct of that. Okay, part 2. How are we doing for time?
What time is it? It is now 7:42.
We're doing well.
Good. Should we stop you and ask questions?
Go!
Oh,
Do you have one now?
No, not quite
Yeah.
yet. I was thinking of, when you were talking about the Romans, how basically their philosophy was might makes right in pre-reasoning times,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you had a whole bunch of things, I think, with the Romans, and I'm not an expert on this,
Mhm.
but we know that they had a very long period of political strength, and yes, they did conquer others, and so we cannot say that the Romans were all beautiful and great. However, they also did bring in government with some effort to do things right.
Mhm.
There's just a sign that there's hope or whatever to do things properly. Of course, you had I think some of the leaders had so much power they considered gods and they went crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And then they did crazy things. Right?
Mhm.
Then you had others who were excellent men, and they did wonderful things. Yeah. But I think, once we got past, I say, the Garden of Eden, and we started going our own way, right? Well, gee, just read the Old Testament, and it's one battle after the other. There was a seasons for wars, It's time to have war again. Okay, the nature of sexuality. So there's a whole bunch of stuff out of the Catechism. I could have taken one, but I took 4 just to sort of almost repeat the same thing every time. What do you think it's going to say?
Unitive and procreative.
Father
Exactly.
Charles, what do you think it's gonna say?
She said it, she said it.
Yeah.
Unitive and procreative. Our sexuality has a purpose. Of course, the Catechism, they use bigger words. Sexuality affects all aspects of the human person in the unity of his body and soul. It especially concerns affectivity, the capacity to love and to procreate, and in a more general way, the aptitude for forming bonds of communion with others. Human sexuality, which is naturally ordered to the good of spouses and the generation and education of children. There's always more written when I got ... but I just picked up the little part that sort of points to the two things: to draw the couple together, and of course for children. Here's the Catechism again. Sexuality is ordered to the conjugal love of man and woman. In marriage, the physical intimacy of the spouses becomes a sign and pledge of spiritual communion. Marriage bonds between baptized persons are sanctified by the sacrament. You know, I often think about, and I don't want to get into, this is getting off topic slightly, but, you know, a man and a woman fall in love. And they want to be together, and they want to raise children. And the whole challenge then of being in relationship with someone so intimately is a challenge,
Mhm.
right? And yet it's a blessing. And so I am so amazed at God, who orders nature in such a way that the opportunity for growth is constantly there. You know, when a couple first falls in love and it's all beautiful joy, right? And that's good. That's nice. Not against that. But of course, when they get to know each other, you find out each other's foibles, and then get married, and you find out each other's foibles, and then you have children, and of course, the challenge of raising kids. So it's all a wonderful plan to grow, right? It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And not just marriage. Marriage is an example, but any community of people. Try to get along with others, you know? Like we said, mankind is wonderful. It's the people that are hard, right? So, God is just amazing. He set it all up. He knew what he was doing. He's smart. He's intelligent. Right? We have a good God. Well, no. Can you back that up?
I'll try, but I think you got me locked.
I do.
Yeah. Do you want me to do it? Just shut yours off.
Okay, good idea.
Come on.
It was backing up before, you know.
Is it because we're taping?
Probably.
Well,
Oh, just hit that.
Yep.
oh, well, let's just carry on from here. I don't
Okay.
remember what that last thing was.
Darn.
That's right.
Is
Okay.
it still taping?
Here's a very interesting set. The next three slides are a very long quote from Plato. Okay? Not Play-Doh, Plato.
Or Pluto. Or Pluto.
Plato wrote all this, and this is before Christ. And look at all the stuff he thought of. I really love this. He says, I had an idea for reinforcing the law about the natural use of the intercourse which procreates children. Abstaining from the male, so it's already this not homosexuality. Not deliberately killing human progeny, which is the children, don't kill the children. Or sowing in rocks and stones. Now, I'm not quite sure what he means here. Masturbation, maybe? Or I guess so, right?
Could be.
Mary and I tried to figure this one out. We figured
Could be, yeah.
could be. Where it will never take root and be endowed with growth. Abstaining, too, from all female soil in which you would not want what you have sown to grow. And then stick with your wife, okay? Stop messing around, all right? There's a lot there, isn't there? Gotta do this gently here. Uh-oh. Not when it has become permanent and prevails, if it has rightly become dominant in other cases, just as it prevails now regarding intercourse with parents, confers innumerable benefits. In the first place, it has been made according to nature. Also, it effects a debarment from erotic fury and insanity, all kinds of adultery and all excesses in drink and food, and it makes men truly affectionate to their own wives. Other blessings would also ensue in infinite number if one could make sure of this. Now, and this comes out of Making Gay Okay, he just quoted Plato, but this business of erotic fury and insanity. So, according to Plato, if you don't use your sexuality well, you may get problems. You may get, really, I think what he's saying is you become addicted to your own sexuality. You're going to go for too much. If you don't use your sexuality properly, it becomes unbalanced.
I mean, like almost like pornography?
Well,
Addiction?
pornography or just seeking sexual pleasure
Right,
and never ever being filled up.
right.
Never arriving where you want to arrive. Because it's not based on love.
That's right.
It's based on go get me some more pleasure.
Right.
Okay. Let's see if I can get this to go just one. Unbridled eros is insatiable. I put a bucket with holes in it to get the idea here. What Plato calls in the laws endless and insatiate evils. Once loosed, it will destroy the rational order of things. Now, okay, so just picture it. If you said, no, there's nothing immoral in any sexuality, and you're going to be amazed at some of the quotes I'll pull out from those who, you'll see. Just to let sex loose and do whatever you want. That's their motto of, I'm not saying all homosexuals, of particular individuals who led the fight. That's what I'm talking about. So there was something wrong there, definitely. This is saying no. Once loosed, it will destroy the rational order of things. That which causes evil in the soul, in which Plato includes homosexual intercourse, will ultimately result in political disorder. The liberation of eros is not freedom, but annihilation.
Right. So eros is
Sexual pleasure.
sexual pleasure.
I think it's bigger than that, but
Yeah.
it certainly that'd be an important part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The state does not make marriage possible. Marriage makes the state possible.
Mm.
Homosexual marriage would have struck Aristotle as an absurdity, since a polity, or a group of people, society, cannot be founded on its necessarily sterile relations. This is why the state has a legitimate interest in heterosexual marriage, because without it, it has no future. There is no future for anything. Okay? So you would want to protect heterosexual marriage, but you don't have what would you invest in for the homosexual one. Okay, homosexual acts. This is still more on the natural law and sexuality and the purpose of sexuality. This fellow here is a philosopher in the United States. Compared with the heterosexual act of marital union, homosexual acts are, as Michael Novak, that's fellow up there, has pointed out, self-centered in a way that is structural. We aren't made complementary to one another. Independent of the goodwill of the individual. They have in them an inescapable element of, and this is a new word for me, solipsism, the theory that the self is all that can be known to exist. The other side of the bed is occupied, as it were, by more of the same half of humanity, instead of the other half for whom each person is constitutionally seeking. In other words, in the natural, I would be seeking a woman, not a man. A woman would be seeking a man, because we're constitutionally made that way. A woman is the other through whom the man can come to know himself fully in his manhood. Just as for a woman, the man is the other through whom she can come to know herself through she can come to know fully her own womanhood. It's just natural, it's just the way we're built. The essential difference between men and women, the underlying reality that gives rise to all the other differences, is that men are in potentiality to be fathers and women in potentiality to be mothers. Same-sex relationships exchange this potency for impotency. Impotency.
Impotent.
I'm impotent. Comes from a joke, but I
Yeah.
forgot the first part of the joke. He says I was important, so I dress important. All right. Ooh. All right. This is, I think, also important because now, so far, talking all this natural law and purpose of sexuality, it's hard hitting on homosexuals. Okay? I'm going to soften up a little bit here. Scientists studied 37 sets of identical male twins who were born with the same genetic blueprint to tease out which genes were associated with homosexuality. In other words, they were testing to see, is there a homosexual gene? Like this guy was born homosexual, this woman was born homosexual, or not. Okay? They're looking for it. They want to prove something. So it's a scientific study. In each pair, at least one of the twins was gay. Another little comment on the word gay. I was reading a different book called The Truth About Homosexuality by a priest who started the Courage. I forgot, Harvey is his last name. He doesn't use the word gay because he doesn't want to. He said gay is a big misnomer with respect to the life experienced by those practicing homosexuals. It would be a rarity. Okay? Rather, you see a lot of hurt, pain, sadness, isolation. So he doesn't use that word, and I use it in trepidation because I read that in that book first. But I'm using it because I'm taking straight quotes right out of the book, so I left it alone.
In 37 sets?
So we had
Each pair?
So you have 37 pairs, right? So you
Yeah.
have whatever 74 people, and
Of
so at least
identical-
they're all identical twins. In other words,
Yeah.
they're not. You know, there's two types of twins. There's
Yeah,
the
fraternal
right, so
and
identical.
Yeah.
So they're identical. So they got the same gene set.
Same age.
So if one is homosexual and it was caused at birth, the other is homosexual, or would have to be. If ever, do you understand what I'm saying? If you want to prove that you're born homosexual,
Okay.
then if one is homosexual and it was caused by birth,
Oh, yeah.
the other has to be
Actually.
homosexual. Okay,
Right.
that's what this test is about.
The debate, yeah.
Okay. 20% of the identical twins were both gay, leading researchers to believe that there must be causes which are not inherited. Okay, but there's a little more. There's a
Okay,
little-
I just got it. Like, they took 37 sets of twins, that one was gay and one was not. Not that they had 37 sets of twins and they found out,
That's right.
right, okay, so he purposely picked these twins because one was
Because
gay.
at least one was gay.
Oh.
At least one was
okay.
gay, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I get it now.
Yeah.
So-
I thought all he didn't pick out 37 pairs of twins and every one of them
Everybody's
is,
gay.
No.
one of them is gay.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Okay,
No,
No,
I'm
they-
sorry, that's not too good.
Statistically
So
impossible.
they needed, first of all, they had to find identical twins.
right,
Were they all male? Yeah, I guess
yes,
they were.
male twins
But they did not around them. At least one of them,
had to be gay to
Was gay.
participate in the study.
that's right.
Or at least
Oh.
claimed he was gay.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, right.
okay, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's another good point.
Yeah.
But at least of all 37 pairs, they were living the gay lifestyle. They had to be, or else they wouldn't have been taken.
Right,
I said,
okay.
no, I'm gay. Well,
Prove
prove it, you know? Otherwise, they'd have a lousy science experiment, right?
Yeah.
They've got to do it right, okay?
But so then you're saying that every identical twin has
No.
No.
every disease, no, just
Oh.
not taking it, not even using the gay theory.
Okay, right.
We're
Right.
not even using the gay theory. So
Mhm.
if you have a gay girl, you have two twin girls, identical twin girls,
Yes,
say.
yes.
So you're telling me if she has, I don't know, what's
Color
a
blindness.
color blindness? That one's gonna have color blindness?
No,
No, right. So that study to
Oh.
me.
no, yeah.
I don't, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, they started out they probably had hundreds of sets of twins, but they narrowed it down to 37 sets where one of them was gay already.
Yeah, but that's not what
Yeah,
she's
but
asking.
this
No,
case, what this case is boiling down to,
Yes.
they're saying that because one is gay and one is not gay, you cannot be born gay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm thinking that study doesn't work because you can have identical twins,
Mhm.
one be colorblind, the other one not be colorblind. So,
See, that I didn't
Yeah,
know.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Actually, it's more boys that are colorblind.
Okay, so,
you mean, so that's.
I
It's
don't
the
know
same
about
genes.
that.
It's the same genes, isn't it? It's an egg
Yeah,
that's split.
I
Well,
don't
you
know
don't-
about colorblindness though.
Or just even anything.
I think what's needed here is to go and look at that study in detail.
And
Yeah.
detail, yeah.
So I don't have
And
enough
now I'd be
information.
curious.
Yeah, me too. I don't
I'm
think you'll find
curious
it.
on whether, if you're identical, are you really identical?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing too.
Or you're just identical visually?
I'm sure you can pull this up
Yeah.
and look at the details, or at least get more details than what I've got here.
And it says the same genetic blueprint.
Yeah,
It
so-
says it there.
So,
With the same genetic blueprint.
right, so,
Well, I know, it's hard to go on from here, I don't really
Yeah.
know, yeah. It's interesting though, it's a good
Yeah.
point, yeah. Okay. So nature versus nurture. So you're born with it, or does it come on because of the environment, or some combination thereof? So this is a very interesting paragraph here. The scientists from UCLA's David Geffen School of Medicine discovered that methylation, a form of DNA modification in certain regions of the genome, differed between homosexual and heterosexual identical twin brothers. What they did not find were the elusive gay genes. Amid the I'll just read it. Amid the ever-present homosexuality is a choice chance of the anti-gay community, it is naturally tempting to claim that this study is concrete proof that sexual orientation is entirely genetic. To say so would be simplistic and, well, wrong. But it does constitute evidence that homosexuality may have some biological basis. That's also consistent with what I read in Father Harvey's book. So it's ongoing study. So I think if we were to gather all of the data together to this point, you could say that that no one is born, let's say, with a homosexual gene and you're forced to be homosexual. But it's likely that some people are born with a propensity towards it, okay? And it wouldn't take much in the environment to make it go that way. Does that make sense? I think that's where we are with that, right? But what I think that means, what that means to me is that if some guy's born with a propensity towards it and he ends up with whatever, and I know people like that, okay? You've got to have a lot of patience and love. You got to, okay? Even though homosexuality may be outside the natural, and I'm not excusing it, that's not what I'm trying to say, but I mean, you have to take a look at, I'll give another example. You may be born with a propensity to alcoholism, okay? And there's a whole variety of ways of having that. Well, if you become an alcoholic, it's not good for you, and it's not good for society, right? But you got to be patient with the guy, or the person. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to say about homosexuality.
it says here, just getting back to the identical twins, if one identical twin has color blindness, so does the other one, because it's a genetic thing.
Oh, so
They would both-
colorblind, they're
they would
forced
both.
to both have colorblindness?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's not what you said a minute ago, but,
You were just
No,
asking the
I was just
question.
asking,
you're asking.
are there? She mentioned colorblind.
yeah.
Yeah,
What I
If it's
thought from the
genetic.
previous slide, from what that quote was that if you have the same genetic code makeup, you're going to look exactly the same.
right.
Then the next question was, okay, well, if one guy's living a gay lifestyle, was it because he was born gay? And if that's the case, this guy was born gay. Why isn't he living, that's what they're trying to, do we have a gay gene is what they're trying to find
Is it
out.
nature or not?
So far, no, there's no gay gene, but it looks like some people are born perhaps with a tendency towards it, and it wouldn't take much in the environment, the dad or the mom, whatever, something happens.
That's right.
Right? Okay. So sex is directed to goodness by love. Love sublimates lust and restores the original innocence of sex. So I really like that. It's very beautiful. I don't think, even for the very best of couples, this come out perfectly. Okay? It's, You got to have perfect trust in each other. You got to have perfectly in tune with God, and you're perfect, you know. And you both come to each other perfect, and he's going to have perfect sex, you know. Well, I mean, we're all struggling to be good people. We're all struggling to do, and so it's only normal that even the intimacy of sexuality is an opportunity for growth, if we let it, right? Or if you don't want to grow, you might get selfish. You might be, you know, get impatient, all that stuff, right? Big topic, eh?
Yeah.
Big topic. That's another topic.
When are you doing that one? I'll bring my husband to that one.
And he'll bring you.
Yeah, that's right.
It is
We'll
no,
grow together.
it is no longer self-seeking, self-consuming, but self-giving and life-generating. Sex receives its inherent completion only in spousal love. So, the danger, I guess, you could say about, you could list a bunch of stuff. Well, contraception. There's a danger in contraception. You add it to the marriage, now you're not worried about having children, and there is the potential, the opportunity for selfish sexuality. Okay, that's putting it simply. And masturbation, and I don't know what else, you know, pornography, sexuality gone wrong, and self-centered. Right? Homosexuality, now, you know, they'll argue black and blue because they know I love this person, but the stats, and I'll show you some stats next week about like heterosexual people also do bad things, and they also have other spouses, but if you just look at the stats, it's huge in the homosexual community, and it's not as huge in the heterosexual community. It says something. Okay? It says something. So I'll show you that. Part 3. Have I got any more time?
We're at 8:10.
7.
7 minutes.
And I'm supposed to stop when?
Well, we could stop now and have a quick coffee and then,
Let's do that, and then I'll do part 3.
all right,
Okay.
let's do it.
People don't believe lies because they have to. They don't.
They do so.
They do so because they want to. Interesting, eh?
Because it's easier.
People don't believe lies because they have to. They do because they want to. Well, if you don't know it's a lie, then that's neutral. But if you know it's a lie, either you're going to totally reject it, or you want that lie. Especially if you say it to yourself. It's not bad what I'm doing. What I did is not bad. That's a lie, but I want to believe that lie. Make sense?
And if enough people believe it, does it become the truth?
Yes.
That's right.
Well, a man may lie to himself very prettily, but he can never really escape the knowledge that it is a lie. Not at the depth of him. Unless you go crazy. Whoops, this is the lady who said that. And this is the other one here. This is Edith Stein, sister. Anyway, she's Saint.
Benedict.
Yeah, you'll see.
What?
Benedicta of the Cross.
Right.
Yeah. Do not accept anything as the truth if it lacks love, and do not accept anything as love which lacks truth. You know, if someone tells you the truth but they're screaming it at you, it doesn't feel good, right? I understand the first one, but the second ones I find very interesting. Do not accept anything as love which lacks truth. So what has to come together is, because if it's not the truth, in other words, if it's not according to nature, if it's not according to what is ultimately true, then it's not ultimately loving.
You know what came to mind for me? A pedophile grooming a child. You know, when they groom the child to
Yes.
love him.
Mm-hmm. It's a lie.
It's a lie.
It's a lie.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone who chooses an evil act must present it to himself as good. Right? Otherwise, as Aristotle taught, he would not be able to choose it. Right? So, whatever it might be. Like the candy out of the store and they steal it. Well, stealing is wrong, but the candy's good.
And they have insurance to cover that.
They have insurance.
Yeah, just covers
And
that,
it's only one candy.
yeah.
That's right, and they've got so many here, no one's gonna miss it. Whatever else you can add to it. Whoops. If we rationalize, we convince ourselves that heretofore forbidden desires are permissible. So in our minds, we replace the reality of the moral order to which the desire should be subordinated with something more compatible with the activity that we are excusing. Okay, we're gonna lie to ourselves so that we can do it. That's really what that adds up to. The word rationalize in some ways, like to be rational is good. And if you want to figure something out, are you not rationalizing? But we have taken the word rationalize, and that's just the way life is, and made it a negative word to mean we're telling ourselves a lie. Okay, we're rational, we're making reasons up to make ourselves believe something that's simply not true. So that's what rationalizing is. And we're not being rational, but we're rationalizing. And, well, this guy here, I'll show the picture of him. It's how we seek not to become just, but to justify ourselves. So these are all saying the same thing. So the power of lying to ourselves or lying to a group, etc., etc. In short, we assert that bad is good. Often conscience wins out and we repent. So it's all of us have done this, right? We all recognize this because we all have been there. And hopefully our conscience eventually wins out. I got to stop being that. I can't stop. That's not. I can't steal any more candy. I can't. Whatever it is. I'm just not going to do it anymore. I feel awful about myself. I go home and I'm lying to everybody now. And she asked me where I was, and I was somewhere else. But it goes on and on. One lie builds on the other lie. It's just an awful place to live. So hopefully your conscience wins out. And repent. Habitual moral failure can be lived with only by obliterating the conscience through a more permanent rationalization and enduring inversion of morality. That makes sense? What are we saying there? Let's say you're addicted to alcohol, okay? Or addicted to your sexuality in some form or another. Well, how can you live with yourself? Well, if you're going to live with yourself, you're going to have to call that good, not bad. All right? You got to. Or else you can't live with yourself. It's just the way it is, right? And if you do it long enough, you start to really believe that. You tell yourself a lie long enough, and that's where you're going to live. It is good. All right? It's very powerful.
I am not an alcoholic.
Yeah.
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 Every morning you say that, but then in the afternoon you're back in the sauce.
Yeah. Or no, I don't drink too much.
Right.
I'm drinking the right amount. People complain, but I don't think I'm drinking too much. It's a lie, and you believe that. Well, the healthiest part of a donut is the whole portion that you have to eat through there to get the... His tummy's big. Okay, here's a very strong example of rationalization. Nuremberg trials, Dr. Karl Brandt, Adolf Hitler's personal physician, here's a picture, in charge of the Nazi regime's Action T4 euthanasia program to eliminate life unworthy of life. All right? So now the war's over, and he's at the Nuremberg trials. Okay? And how does he react to that? He said in his defense, when I said yes to euthanasia, I did so with the deepest conviction, just as it is my conviction today that it was right. Death can mean deliverance. Death is life. Amazing, eh? Intelligent man. He believed that killing all these people was the right thing to do. So that's
Who's delivering?
rationalization that's very strong. I don't know if it can make it any stronger. Okay.
Yeah, but what got him there to think that?
Lies and lies. Like, okay, he was with Hitler. Like, I can't answer that question fully, but I would surmise that Hitler convinced him. Maybe he admired Hitler for a whole bunch of reasons and said, well, Hitler taught this, I would accept that. And, you know, I mean, it's madness, right? It's total madness. We think it's madness, but for him it was the truth. It's like those who promote abortion because it's the right thing to do.
For the Lord.
Right. For a variety of reasons. Some people have, well, I've got more slides to talk about abortion in a second. Better keep going. A more immediately apt analogy to this kind of rationalization is the practice and justification of abortion. The internal logic of abortion requires the spread of death from the unborn to the nearly born. Okay, now it goes on. And then to the infirm and to otherwise burdensome individuals. And of course, within abortion, well, only do it in the first trimester.
Yeah.
No, second. Just before it's born. Maybe just after it's
Partial birth.
partial birth. You know, it goes on and on. Because once you rationalize it, you can go on and on and on. If this makes sense, this must make sense too. The baby's born infirm, well, get rid of it.
The quality of life.
Come on, here we go. Like Dr. Brandt, if you're going to kill innocent persons, you had better convince yourself and others that it is right. Not just yourself, you have to convince a lot of people. Okay? And I'm getting to the whole thing of homosexuality and social engineering. It's just amazing. I'll do that next week. Social engineering. Bring your friends.
Both of them.
Abortion is the ultimate and the larger rationalization of sexual revolution, of which the homosexual cause is a part. If sex is only a form of amusement or self-realization, as it must be when divorced from the moral order, why should the generation of a child stand in the way of it or penalize its fulfillment? Isn't that something? Can't let kids get in the way of this pleasure. Cannot. That's what it adds up to. What do you think about it?
Yeah.
Amazing, right? Amazing. The virtual reality of rationalization is stronger than the actual reality of the child.
So then you're saying that they can rationalize being homosexuals because then they don't have to worry about having kids.
Well, I think that if we're to if I, you know, I mean, there's still a little bit of resistance to homosexuality, not much anymore in society. Or in your own family, you kind of shy to tell your parents, well, I have attraction to the same sex. It's a little bit shameful, right? They're just facing the reality of it themselves. And they grow up in a Catholic family, okay? And then the understanding of, you know, the inappropriateness of homosexual behavior. Be tough for a child growing up. It's true, eh? It's true. And so if they start to live it, well, they've got to tell themselves it's okay, for one, even though they might even have seen this, you know, or any other good expose or read about it, and they actually kind of think that stuff is right, but I got to go here. So now they have to live with it, right? So the beginning is, it's okay. I can do this. It's not wrong. I can't help it, etc. You know? But once you've rationalized, you're going to rationalize it with a group, okay? Because you want your friends to accept you. You don't want to be rejected by anyone, and especially not your family. So you're going to try and convince them, and they may get convinced. They might. So it goes on and it spreads. So this is about abortion. So the virtual reality of the rationalization is stronger than the actual reality of the child. So there's no connection here with, I'm not trying to connect homosexuality with children. What you can say in that connection is, you can't have children. And so the natural, I'll call it breaks to seeking sexual pleasure is simply not there. There's no children, there's no responsibility added. And for most couples, and I'll show you the stats, for most homosexual couples, they will agree to just go out and find other partners because it's fun just having one. You know, it goes on, like that's the rationale, and they both agree, and then off they go. So now you find heterosexual couples like that too. So I'm not saying that it's impossible heterosexual, but I'm just saying that if you take the brakes off, the chance increases, and the stats prove it. If you're going to center your public life on a private act of sodomy, you had better transform sodomy into a highly moral act. Really, okay? I'm going to live it. I want you to accept me, and I want you to accept homosexuality. I want you to see that it's good and it's right.
Love is love.
Yeah, whatever excuse you're going to give. Yeah. The acceptance of each variant of sexual misbehavior reinforces the others. the underlying dynamic is, if you'll rationalize my sexual misbehavior, I'll rationalize yours. And so, I'll show you a quote coming up there next week. I'll show that quote. The guy says, well, I think we need to have more and more of whatever sexual deviation you can possibly think of with animals, that it goes on and on. He was a great icon in the effort for homosexuals to be accepted. Okay? And that's what he said. If homosexuality is a highly moral act, it should, in fact, must serve as the basis for marriage, family, and community. Right? You're going to have to push it to its limit. You'll have to push it to its limit. You might start with just, hey, leave me alone and let me do whatever I want in my bedroom. Okay? Don't bug me. Take that. That's the first step. And stop people from hurting me because they're, you know, well, it's all right. You shouldn't hurt. No one should hurt anybody, and I think they have a right to ask for that. But that's the first step. But you just can't stop there. Who's going to stop there and just say, leave me alone? Because you want to be in community and be accepted and loved. So you're going to have to keep going. Right? If it is normative, it should be taught in our schools as a standard. If it is a standard, it should be enforced. Right? We've seen all this happen. All of this has happened. It was predictable. The homosexual cause moved naturally from a plea for tolerance to cultural conquest because of sequential rationalization. And not just that. For them to succeed in this, everyone must accept or
Accede, give in to.
accede, give into, right, good, to rationalization. This is why revolutionary change is required using all the tools of compulsion. The word revolution here is used, it's out of his book. He talks, Aristotle says, revolutions start from the needs of us in private. Okay, like we have a need, right? Now, some of those needs are good needs, and the revolution's needed. Some of them aren't. Okay. But he's just pointing out that, you know, it starts small and gets big. Further problems related to this must also be rationalized or ignored. Example, AIDS was at first connected very strongly to the homosexual community, and then you'd see more and more media coming out and saying all are at risk. It's true, all are at risk, so they didn't lie. But around 94% of cases are from gay sex, still. Okay. These unpleasant facts invite unwelcome attention to the nature of homosexual acts, so they must be ignored and must be kind of hidden. Okay? That's just part of all that would be part of social engineering. The social engineering that I've advertised is still to come. It's a 3-step process, and I'll show that first up next time. When morally disordered acts become the defining centerpiece of one's life, vice can permanently pervert reason. In other words, total addiction, I guess. It's impossible to think straight anymore. Well, this guy, Brandt, the Hitler's man, his reason is gone, and it seems permanent. They put him to death, and he didn't back up. Right? He didn't say, no, I'm not. And the inversion of reality becomes complete. The rationalization can turn into a prison from which one cannot escape. It's sad, but true. And so, but God can pull anyone out of anything if we turn to God. God is all-powerful and capable of helping someone out of a prison. That picture. Euthanasia. Well, we're still in the process of rationalizing the euthanasia. And I saw a great film, and I saw 2 great films recently about rationalization. One is on euthanasia. It's by Kevin Dunn. I don't know if you've had the chance to see it.
Vulnerable, the euthanasia and deception?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a viewing here in town.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they look at Holland, I think it is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And all, because the government has to say this is a good thing, it's a loving thing. We've got a guy, Nathaniel, who's terminally ill with cancer. And the second group of people he went to see after he's told that you've got 6 months is the euthanasia folks.
He's a Nathaniel.
He didn't accept it. This was offered.
Oh.
This was offered him at the hospital.
And there's a new TV show coming out, eh? It's called Mary Kills People. It's about a
You'll promote it, I think.
psychiatrist who, yeah,
Or is it against it or for it?
for
For.
killing, if she goes through, you know, kills her patients. Because it's a good thing.
Yeah. Interesting about contraception, Pope Pius XII or something, he was, of course, the church has always been against it, but he said, you know, as contraception increases, what will increase is infidelity, abortion. He listed them. Right on the nose. But we can rationalize that too. Pornography is rationalized by lots of people. Big industry. Someone's got to rationalize it, right? Okay, let's stop.
Okay.
You can have certain religions
Certain religions,
can be rationalized.
Well, you mean the acts that people do in the name of religion?
Scientology,
yeah. Yeah, like,
is very rationalized.
yeah. Yeah, I guess if we looked at the natural law, okay, the natural law is a given from God, so any religion would have to stand up to it. So whatever they teach has to be checked against it. Okay? The Catholic Church prides itself on paying close attention to it. I don't know that any other church, I think a lot of churches do very well and do a good job, and because they take the scriptures seriously and so on. But Church of Scientology or whatever else has to stand up to all that stuff, and it's going to fall. If it's wrong, if it's doing wrong things, what are they rationalizing? I'm not sure. You know, like there's the Church of Satan. You know, well, I don't know what they're rationalizing, but you know,
Catholics for abortion.
Yeah.
yeah, and they'll pick up all the same rationalization
Yeah,
they have from the media.
I don't know where. I'll put it on my drive.
So will you be able to sort of patch these things together after, or
It's gonna try.
Cameron?
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Or I
It's
can
gonna
just,
work on it.
Well, it was very good, Louis.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A lot of big words.
That's a lot of big words, eh?
I found it interesting